For years he wept in the silence of the night, pouring his heart out to Allah. No answers, no signs, just tears and prayers. People called him crazy, told him to give up, but he never stopped. And then something happened that no one saw coming. What Allah did next will leave you speechless. So don't skip a second of this story. He cried to Allah for years, not days, not weeks, years. In the quiet hours of the night, while the world slept, he was awake, eyes flooded with tears, whispering the same dua over and over again. Sometimes with hope, sometimes with trembling doubt, and sometimes with nothing but a broken voice and a trembling soul. The world saw nothing. They thought he had moved on, but his heart was in sujood long after his body stood up. He never stopped asking, never stopped hoping, never stopped believing, even when the silence from the heavens stretched longer than he could bear. And that's what most people don't understand. That sometimes the greatest act of faith is waiting. Waiting when there are no signs. Waiting when there is no response. Waiting while everything inside you screams to give up. But still, you ask. That's when you're closest to Allah. That's when your soul is being carved into something extraordinary. People mocked him. Family told him to be realistic. Friends told him to move on. But his heart refused to let go of the rope of Allah. And do you know what the Prophet said? That Allah is shy to leave the hands of his servant empty when they are raised to him. So why the delay? Why the years of silence? Because the wait wasn't to punish him. It was to prepare him. You see, when Allah delays, He's not denying you. He's upgrading your destination. Every tear he cried was being collected. Every whispered dua was being recorded. Every moment he felt alone, he was being surrounded by the mercy of the one who never forgets. And then, one day, it happened. The moment that would silence every doubter. The thing he begged for came to him in a way he never expected at a time he had given up on. Not only was his dua answered, but it was answered in a way that shook everyone around him. That's how Allah works. When He gives beyond your imagination. When He answers in a way that leaves you speechless. And what people didn't know was this. The years of tears weren't wasted. They were building him, softening his heart, connecting him to his Rabb, turning his pain into power. Because sometimes the delay is the miracle. The real shock isn't what happened. The real miracle is who he became through the process. Strong, unshakable, grateful. And that's what Allah wants from you. Not just to receive the blessing, but to become worthy of it. So if you're crying to Allah and it feels like nothing is changing, know this, something is. Inside you, around you, behind the scenes, in the unseen. And when the time is right, when you're ready, when the test has carved you deep enough, the answer will come. And when it comes, it will shock you. Not because you didn't believe, but because Allah gave you more than you ever imagined. So keep crying, keep asking, keep hoping, even when your voice breaks, even when no one understands, even when the world tells you to stop. Because Allah hears what the heart cannot even express. And He responds, always. Not when you want, but when you need. And when He does, it will change everything. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream, it whispers. A kind of heartbreak that doesn't shatter loudly, but instead quietly bleeds inside the chest. It's the pain of making dua again and again, year after year, crying out to the heavens while nothing seems to change. You raise your hands in the darkness of night, when the world is asleep and everything is still, and you whisper those same words you've whispered 1,000 times before. You beg, you plead, you confess your helplessness, you admit your weakness, and yet all you receive is silence. No signs, no sudden ease, no miracle. And that silence, it's not empty, it's heavy, heavy with questions, heavy with confusion, heavy with the fear that maybe, just maybe, you're not being heard. Maybe your words are too small, maybe your heart is too flawed, maybe you've made too many mistakes to deserve a response. But the strange thing is, even in that silence, you keep making that dua. Something inside you won't let you stop. Something inside you whispers, don't let go, don't walk away, not yet. And that's where the real struggle begins, not just in the asking, but in the waiting. Not in the dua itself, but in the days and nights after, when everything remains the same. When you pray for healing, but your wounds still ache. When you ask for love, but the loneliness only deepens. When you seek a way out, but the walls around you grow tighter. And still, you get up, you raise your hands, and you say, Ya Allah, I'm still here. That's not weakness. That's the most powerful kind of strength. Because it takes courage to talk to the one who hasn't answered yet. It takes faith to keep knocking on the same door that hasn't opened. And every time you do, your soul is being reshaped. You don't see it, but your heart is being purified. Your ego is being broken. Your attachment to this world is being pulled away piece by piece. Allah is not just listening, He's preparing. And while you feel like your du'as are floating into silence, they're actually rising straight to the one who hears even the soundless cries of your heart. You see, the world doesn't understand this kind of patience. It sees unanswered prayers as failure. It sees waiting as weakness. But in Islam, this waiting is worship. This pain is purification. And those who cry to Allah for years are not forgotten. They're honored. Think of the prophets. Think of Prophet Zakaria, who cried to Allah for a child into old age, with a heart full of longing, but lips full of praise. Think of Yusuf, whose freedom was delayed by years of imprisonment, even after doing the right thing. Think of Ayub, whose body was broken and whose world was shattered, yet he never stopped saying, Ya Allah. These weren't just tests, they were processes. Processes designed to transform the soul, to detach it from this world, to stretch its capacity for trust. Because the longer you wait for something from Allah, the deeper your connection becomes with the giver, not just the gift. And yet, in the middle of that long wait, it's hard. So hard. There are days you sit in sujood and you don't even have words left. Just tears, just silence, just that lump in your throat and that ache in your chest. But even that is seen, even that is heard, even that is written. Because your dua is not measured by how beautifully it's said, but by how sincerely it comes from your heart. And the more broken your heart is when you ask, the more power your dua holds. There is a secret in those nights when you feel completely alone, but you still turn to Him. There is a beauty in those moments when you feel too tired to even speak, but your heart still whispers His name. Those are not wasted moments. Those are the moments that define who you are to your Lord. Not your strength, not your success, not your ease, but your desperation. Your refusal to give up on Allah even when everything else has failed you. And the longer the dua goes unanswered, the deeper it carves into your soul. That longing, it breaks you open in ways nothing else can. It strips away the illusion of control. It exposes the truth that you need Him more than you need what you're asking for. That maybe what you want isn't even the real goal. Maybe the real goal was for your heart to stay in sujood for this long. Maybe Allah missed hearing your voice. Maybe He delayed the answer just to keep you close. Because if He had given it to you the first time you asked, you might have walked away. You might have gotten what you wanted, but lost what you needed: His nearness, His mercy, His forgiveness. So instead, He held it back. Not out of cruelty, but out of love. A love so deep it hurts. A love that hides itself in silence, but reveals itself through faith. And the people around you, they don't know. They see you smile. They see you laugh. They think you've moved on. But only you know the nights. Only you know the quiet battles. Only you know the weight of carrying a dua that's never left your heart, no matter how many years have passed. And sometimes you even wonder if you're crazy. Crazy for hoping. Crazy for still believing. But you're not. You're chosen. Chosen to go through a process that not everyone is strong enough to endure. Chosen to hold on when others would have let go. And that's not a punishment. It's a divine trust. Oh, Allah doesn't break hearts for no reason. He breaks them so they can be rebuilt, stronger, softer, and more connected to Him than ever before. So every time you raise your hands, even if it's shaky, even if it's just a whisper, even if it's the 100th time you've asked for the same thing, know this: your dua is never lost. It is either stored, answered, redirected, or used to elevate your rank in Jannah. Allah never ignores sincere tears, never overlooks a sincere plea. You may not see it today. You may not see it tomorrow. You may not see it tomorrow. But one day, you will look back and realize that your greatest pain became the door to your greatest closeness with your Lord. And that dua you made for years, it wasn't just being heard. It was being written into a story more beautiful than you could have ever imagined. There is a kind of patience that isn't loud. It doesn't scream, doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand recognition. It's the kind that sits quietly in the shadows of your daily life, unnoticed by the world, but deeply known to Allah. It's not the patience of grand speeches or inspiring posts. It's the kind that exists in silence, the kind that walks through the pain without showing it on your face, the kind that holds back tears in public, only to release them on the prayer mat when no one's watching. This is the patience that Allah loves the most. The sabr, it's not for show, not for sympathy, not even for strength, but for sincerity. That raw, quiet strength where your soul whispers, "Ya Allah, I trust you," even when everything around you is falling apart. True patience isn't always found in those who speak the most about it. Sometimes it's hidden in those who speak the least, but feel the most. Those who carry 1,000 untold stories behind their eyes. Those who smile while their hearts are bleeding. Those who help others while silently begging Allah for help themselves. Those who walk into rooms with energy and warmth, only to go home and collapse in exhaustion from battles no one sees. That kind of patience doesn't make headlines. It doesn't get applause. It doesn't get applause, but it gets recorded by the angels. It gets witnessed by our Rahman. It echoes in the heavens while the earth stays silent. And on the day of judgment, when secrets are revealed, those silent battles will shine like medals. The Prophet Ahab is one of the most powerful examples of this patience. He lost everything, his health, his wealth, his children. His body was in pain, his heart was shattered. His name was forgotten by people, but his lips never stopped remembering Allah. He didn't scream in anger. He didn't scream in anger. He didn't complain to the people. He bore it all in silence until finally, after years of unshakable patience, he said just one thing to his Lord. "Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." Just that. No blame, no frustration, just quiet surrender. That was enough. And Allah responded immediately. That's the power of silent patience. When the heart remains firm, when the tongue stays soft, when the soul stays anchored in faith, even when life is anything but easy. Because real sabr isn't just waiting, it's what you do during the wait. It's the way you treat others while you're hurting. The moments when you can feel the judgment in someone's silence, or worse, when they say it out loud. "You're still praying for that?" they ask with a raised brow. "It's been years. Maybe it's just not meant for you." Or even harsher, "If Allah really loved you, wouldn't He have helped you by now?" And you smile, not because you're okay, but because you're used to it now. You've learned how to hide the sting behind your silence, but deep inside you bleed. Not because of what they say, but because sometimes you've thought the same thing. Maybe Allah has forgotten me. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe they're right. But no, they're not right. They don't know the depth of your struggle. They don't see the nights you wake up when the world sleeps, dragging a broken heart into sujood again and again. They don't know the weight of carrying a hope that's so fragile it could shatter any moment. And yet you keep protecting it like it's a treasure. They don't hear the tremble in your voice when you whisper, "Ya Allah, I still believe." And most of all, they don't understand the kind of faith it takes to ask Allah again after being met with silence for so long. Because it's easy to have faith when everyone is clapping for you, when life is going your way, when your du'as are answered quickly. But it's something else entirely to still say Alhamdulillah when you've got nothing in your hands but pain, when your heart is exhausted and your soul is bruised from waiting. People judge by results. They measure your worth by what you have, what you've achieved, how visibly blessed you seem to be. They see unanswered prayers and assume you're doing something wrong, that your faith must be weak, that your sins must be holding you back. But Allah, He sees differently. He sees the effort, not just the outcome. He sees the battle behind your silence. He sees the struggle in your patience. He sees the way you lower your gaze, the way you bite your tongue when you want to scream, the way you keep your prayers going even when you feel like they're not being heard. And that is what matters to Him, not the opinions of people, not their shallow conclusions, but your heart, your sincerity, your endurance. Remember, even the prophets were doubted. No preached for 950 years and people called him insane. They mocked him, ridiculed him, ignored him. But he didn't stop. Not because the people believed in him, but because Allah did. Ibrahim was thrown into fire by his own people. Yusuf was betrayed by his own brothers. Maryam faced slander while carrying a miracle in her womb. Musa was told he was crazy for going up against a pharaoh. And yet, they kept going, they kept trusting, because they weren't looking for validation from the crowd. They were looking for acceptance from their Lord. And that's the difference between those who break under people's opinions and those who rise above them. So when people doubt you, don't let it shake your heart. When they belittle your efforts, your pain, your endless du'as, don't let it define you. Let them talk. Let them walk away. Let them judge. You weren't created to please them. You weren't put on this earth to match their timeline or their understanding of success. You were created to worship. And sometimes the purest worship is crying to Allah in secret while everyone else moves on. The people who doubt you now, they don't know how deeply your name is known in the heavens. They don't know how your whispered du'as light up the skies. They don't see the angels recording your patience, your tears, your hope that refuses to die. And the most powerful thing is, Allah will never let it go to waste. He is Al-Basir, the one who sees all. And He sees you. He sees the way you hold on when there's nothing to hold on to. He sees how you carry your dreams even when they feel like burdens. He sees the way you keep showing up for Him, even when the world tells you to stop. And the day will come, sooner than you think, when Allah will make everything clear, when He will raise you in front of the same people who doubted you, when the same ones who looked down on you will see how Allah honored you, protected you, rewarded you, and it will be undeniable. Because when Allah writes your story, no one can erase it. When He raises you, no one can bring you down. So don't chase their approval, don't crave their understanding, don't wait for them to see your worth. Instead, pour all of your heart into the one who already sees it and loves it. The one who never needed you to prove anything but just needed you to trust Him. Keep crying to Him even if it's been years. Keep believing even if they laugh. Because their voices may be louder, but His mercy is greater. Their opinions may echo in your ears, but His plan is written in the heavens. And He, the one who sees you in every lonely moment, in every silent tear, in every unseen act of worship, He will never let your patience go unrewarded. There are tears this world will never see. Silent tears, hidden tears, the kind that fall when the room is dark and your face is buried in the prayer mat, when no one is watching and no one even knows you're hurting. Sometimes they come during sujood, sometimes in the middle of a crowd, and sometimes without warning. Just a sudden wave of pain rising in your chest and leaking through your eyes before you can even name what you're feeling. These aren't the kind of tears you show people. These are the ones you don't even understand yourself. But Allah does. Not a single tear falls without Him seeing it. Not one. Even before that tear leaves your eye, He already knows what it's carrying. A fear, a heartbreak, a longing, a prayer, maybe even all of them at once. People might ask, why are you crying again? As if tears make you weak. As if crying to Allah is something to be ashamed of. But in reality, these tears are a form of worship. These tears are proof that your heart is still alive. That despite everything you've gone through, despite how many times life has broken you, you still turn back to your Creator, you still care, you still hope. And in a world that constantly tries to harden your heart, that's a miracle in itself, because Allah loves a broken heart that runs to Him. He loves the servant who weeps in the night, not out of hopelessness, but because they believe in His mercy more than their pain. Think of Maryam, peace be upon her. Alone, young, scared, giving birth under a tree with no one to comfort her. She cried out, not in rebellion, but in raw humanity, I wish I had died before this. And yet Allah responded, not with anger, but with gentleness, with provision, with reassurance, because He doesn't punish you for crying. He embraces you in it. He sends peace not when you've wiped your tears, but while they're still falling. That's the mercy of your Lord. He's not distant. He's near, closer than your own heartbeat, closer than the pain you can't even put into words. And every tear you shed, every single one has been recorded. Not one has been ignored. Not one is wasted. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself used to cry in sujood until the ground beneath him became wet, not because he was weak, but because he was connected, because he knew that these tears were a secret language between him and Allah. He knew that every drop of grief offered in prayer is like a seed planted in the soil of faith, and that Allah would one day bring something beautiful out of it. Even when you don't feel strong, even when all you have left are tears, Allah is drawing you nearer, nearer. And sometimes the reason your heart feels heavy is because it's full of unspoken du'as. ones that your tongue can't express, but your tears can. And you need to understand something deeply. When you cry to Allah, you are never alone, even if the room is empty, even if your phone is silent. Not just to give you the life you wanted, but to guide you toward the life you never thought possible. A life where your heart beats with remembrance, where your tongue speaks more du'as than complaints, where your strength doesn't come from within, but from above. And when you look back, you realize the greatest miracle wasn't what changed around you, but changed inside you. The heartbreak made you softer. The delay made you wiser. The unanswered prayers made you closer to the one who never left. And suddenly the pain you once begged to escape becomes the very experience you're most grateful for. Because without it, you would have stayed where you were, comfortable, unaware, spiritually asleep. But now, you've woken up. Now you've tasted what it means to live not for this world, but for the next. And that is greater than anything you could have imagined when you first cried out to Allah in desperation. What happens after the test isn't just healing. It's transformation. It's transformation. It's divine rewriting. It's Allah saying, you waited, you endured, you trusted. Now see what I've prepared for you. So if you've ever cried to Allah for something and felt like your voice was lost in the wind, if you've ever begged in sujood with trembling hands and shattered hopes, wondering if He hears you, let this be your reminder. He does. Every tear that fell from your eyes was counted. It's every silent prayer that no one else knew about was recorded by the one who knows everything. Every time you held on when your soul was breaking, that wasn't wasted, that was seen, that was honored. And while you were waiting, Allah was working. While you were weeping, Allah was preparing. While the world looked at you like you were forgotten, Allah was writing a story that would shock even you. Because sometimes the delay is not a denial, it's divine direction. Sometimes the silence is not neglect, it's mercy. It's a chance for you to build the kind of connection with Allah that only brokenness can create. And once that connection is real, once your dua becomes not just a request, but a lifeline, you'll realize something powerful. The journey was never about the outcome. It was always about the bond. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real miracle. Not the result at the end, but the nearness you felt in the process. Not what you got, but who you became. Because Allah doesn't just answer prayers. He shapes souls. He builds you in the waiting, strengthens you in the silence, purifies you through the tears. So when the moment finally comes, when the door opens, when the tide turns, when the light breaks through, it's not just a relief, it's a rebirth. You walk out of that darkness stronger, clearer, and more connected to your purpose than you've ever been. And suddenly, what you went through doesn't feel like a curse, it feels like a turning point. A divine appointment with growth. A chapter that had to happen so your story could evolve into something breathtaking. So to anyone out there still waiting, still crying, still whispering du'as into the night with no apparent answer, don't let go. Don't think He's ignoring you. The same Lord who took Yusuf from a well to a throne, who took Musa from a basket in the river to leading a nation, who took Maryam from the pain of childbirth alone to being honored for eternity, that same Lord sees you. And if the wait feels long, it's only because what He's preparing for you is greater than you expect. So don't stop crying to Him. Don't stop hoping, because you never know. Maybe the next prayer you whisper is the one that will turn everything around. And when it does, when the miracle finally comes, you'll understand why it had to take so long. Because the best stories are written slowly, by the one who knows the ending before it begins. And trust me, your ending will be worth every single tear.